I pushed open the glass door, balancing the stack of reports against my chest. My knuckles hurt from holding them too tight. "Mr. Hale," I said, peeking into his office. "Got the numbers you asked for." Then I froze. He wasn't looking at me. He wasn't even looking at the reports. He was holding a single sheet of paper, cream-colored, neatly folded. His eyes scanned it like he was savoring every word. And then I saw my name, at the bottom. My signature. The date? My resignation letter. But I hadn't written it. My stomach dropped. My breath stuttered. My pulse hammered so loud I thought he could hear it. I whispered, "What is that?" Mr. Hale looked up slowly, lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. Relief. Satisfaction. Maybe even victory. "You finally came to your senses," he said. "Didn't expect you to be so professional about it." My throat burned. "That step's not mine." He tapped the paper. "It's steps signed, it's steps formatted exactly how you always write your reports. You telling me you didn't write this." I shook my head. Hard. "I never, Mr. Hale. I didn't resign." Silence hung between us. Thick. Heavy. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. "Let me see it." He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "What difference does it make? It's official now. HR will process it by end of day. You want to drag this out and make a scene?" My chest tightened like a vice. "Somebody forged it. Someone wants me out. Don't you see?" He laughed under his breath. "Why would anyone bother forging a resignation? Not that important." That cut deeper than the letter itself. I swallowed the sting and whispered, "If I wanted to leave, I would told you myself, to your face." "Maybe you were afraid," he said coldly. "Maybe you didn't want confrontation." "I am confronting you now." My voice cracked, but I pushed through. "That not my letter." He slid it across his desk, like he was daring me to touch it. My hand hovered, then snatched it. I read it. Every word sounded like me. My tone, my phrasing, even the stupid way I spaced my paragraphs. But my gut screamed it wasn't mine. "I didn't write this," I muttered, clutching the paper. He leaned forward. "Then who did?" I opened my mouth, and closed it again. My mind raced. Someone had access to my files, my style, my signature. Who hated me enough to erase me like this? "Maybe," I whispered, "someone in the office." "Enough." His voice slammed like a gavel. "You can take it back. You signed it. It's done." "No," I snapped. "You want me gone, don't you?" His eyes didn't flinch. "It's for the best." That's when I knew. He wasn't shocked. He wasn't even curious. He was relieved, like he'd been waiting for this. "You set this up," I said slowly. He raised his brows. "Careful with your accusations." I laughed bitterly. "Accusations? You sir sitting there smirking at a forged resignation, and you want me to believe this is coincidence?" His silence was the answer. My hands shook as I shoved the paper back at him. "This isn't over." He chuckled, low and sharp. "It already is." I turned, storming out before the heat in my eyes spilled into tears. My chest ached like something inside me had cracked. In the hallway, fluorescent lights buzzed above me. The walls felt tighter, like they were closing in. Every familiar desk, every coworker glance, it all felt different. Someone here wanted me erased. Someone had studied me. My words, my habits, my signature. And now my boss had folded the paper like it sealed my fate. I pressed my back to the cold wall, clutching the reports I almost forgotten. My voice came out in a whisper, trembling but alive. "No, not like this. Whoever did this, they don't know who they're messing with." For the first time, I wasn't just an employee, I was a target. And I was going to find out who pulled the trigger. By lunch, the walls were buzzing. Not from machines, not from phones, from whispers. Every step I took, I felt eyes slide away. Some mouths curled into smirks, others pressed into thin lines, pretending not to see me at all. I gripped my tray, forcing myself into the break room. The smell of burnt coffee and reheated leftovers hung in the air. Normal. But the silence that followed me in, that was different. "Hey," I said, dropping into the chair across from Lila. She didn't meet my eyes, her fork just poked at her salad. My voice cracked. "What?" She sighed, still avoiding me. "You didn't tell me you were leaving." I'm not. My words came out sharp. That letter Sep's fake. Her eyes flicked up, scanning me, then darting away again. People are saying, she whispered. I don't stat care what people are saying. I cut in, you know me, you know I wouldn't stat just vanish like that. Finally she leaned closer, lowering her voice. I overheard Clara. My stomach twisted. Clara? Leela nodded. In the copy room, she was talking to Denise, laughing, saying she finally cleaned the place up. The fork in my hand clattered against the tray. She said that. Leela bit her lip. Word for word. Heat surged through me, flooding my chest. Clara, the secretary, always smiling too sweetly at Hale, always rolling her eyes when I spoke. Why would she do that? I asked, but it wasn't really a question. My voice trembled anyway. Jealousy? I don't know, Lila whispered. Maybe she thinks you stever a threat. Or maybe, she hesitated. Someone told her to. I gripped the edge of the table until my knuckles burned. Hale. Leela flinched. Don set say that here. I glanced around. 2 guys from accounting were staring. When our eyes met, they looked away too fast, whispering into their coffee cups. It felt like poison was leaking through the walls. I stood up so quickly my chair screeched against the tile. Where are you going? Lila asked. To get answers. The hallway was too bright, every fluorescent bulb buzzing like it knew a secret. And there she was, Clara, leaning against the wall, phone in hand, nails tapping the screen with lazy confidence. Her eyes lifted the moment she saw me, that smirk. I'd seen it before, but now it felt different, deadly. I marched straight to her. We need to talk. She arched a brow. About what? You forged it, didn't set you. My voice shook but didn't set break. The letter, my resignation. Her smile was ice. Careful, that sip's a big accusation. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Lila heard you bragging. You said you cleaned the place up. Stetch, what does that mean, Clara? Her lips curled into something sharp. Maybe it means what it sounds like. My breath caught. Why? Her eyes flicked past me, like she was checking if anyone was listening. Then she leaned in, her perfume chokingly sweet. Maybe you should just move on, she whispered. The words sliced through me, soft, cruel, final. I stared at her, my pulse slamming in my ears. You want me gone that badly? She straightened, brushing invisible dust from her blouse. I don't want anything. I just think the office runs smoother without certain distractions. Distractions. That sep's what I was to her, to them. I clenched my fists. You don't get to decide that. Her eyes glinted, amused. Seems like I already did. The hallway tilted for a moment, the air too thin. It hit me then. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't some clerical mistake or misfiled document. This was sabotage. She smirked one last time before striding away, heels clicking like a gavel hitting marble. I stood frozen, every nerve burning. When I finally dragged myself back to the break room, Lila was waiting. She took one look at me and whispered, she did it, didn't she? I sank into the chair, my voice hoarse. She as good as admitted it. Leela Sepp's eyes widened. Why would she risk something like that? I shook my head. Because she knows Hale will protect her. The realization settled like lead in my stomach. Hale wasn't just letting this happen, he wanted it. And Clara was his weapon. Lila reached across the table, her hand brushing mine. So what do you do now? My chest tightened. The room was still buzzing, whispers slicing through the air. I looked at her, voice low but steady. I fight back. But even as I said it, doubt clawed at me. My name was already poison in this building. Rumors spread faster than truth. I wasn't just paranoid anymore. I was marked. And if I wanted to survive, I had to play their game better than they did. Because one thing was clear. Clara thought she buried me. But she had no idea. I wasn't done yet. The office was empty by the time I slipped back in. The hum of the air conditioning was the only sound. Desks sat in neat rows, silent witnesses to everything that had been happening. I went straight to mine. My pulse was still uneven from my run-in with Clara. I yanked open the first drawer. Folders, notes, pens scattered like they'd been tossed. Then, under a stack of reports, I saw something that didn't belong. A folder labeled with my name. I pulled it out, heart pounding. Inside were reports sloppy, riddled with mistakes I'd never make, wrong figures, broken sentences, careless formatting. Each page had my initials at the bottom. My breath caught. No, no, this isn't mine. Someone was planting evidence. Not just one mistake. A pattern. A campaign. The resignation letter wasn't the beginning. It was the endgame. God, I whispered, gripping the folder. They've been building this for weeks. I slammed the papers down on the desk, chest heaving. Then I remembered my father Sep's voice, deep and steady from my childhood. Silence is dignity, but silence can also be defeat. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't just sabotage, this was execution. And I stepped in silent too long. I didn't hear Leela come in until her voice broke the quiet. Why are you still here? I spun around, the folder clutched in my hand. Because someone Sep's framing me. Her eyes widened. What? I shoved the papers toward her. Look! Reports, signed with my name, full of mistakes. Do these look like my work to you? She hesitated before reaching out. Her fingers trembled as she flipped through the pages. Finally, she said softly, they don't sound like you. Exactly. My voice cracked. But they sup are labeled as mine. If Hale sees this, if HR sees this, they sup will think I sup been slipping for months. Lila looked at me, worry written across her face. Who would even go this far? I stared at her. Too long, too hard. And for the first time, I saw hesitation in her eyes. Layla, my voice was sharp. Did you know about this? Her lips parted. What? No, of course not. You hesitated. I stepped closer. Yusup's supposed to be my friend, but you looked guilty. Her voice shook. I stepped scared, okay? Do you blame me? This place eats people alive. And if Clara or Hale are behind this, then we steer both in danger. I swallowed, chest tight. She wasn't wrong, but doubt still crawled through me. Tell me the truth, I whispered. Have you known about this longer than you said? She shook her head violently. No, I only heard Clara yesterday. That sips it, I swear. The silence between us felt like glass, ready to shatter. I dropped into my chair, rubbing my temples. I don't know who to trust anymore. She sat across from me, lowering her voice. Then trust me, I am still here, aren't I? But her words felt thinner than they used to. I stared back down at the forged reports, my name at the bottom of every page, like they'd been mocking me, like someone was carving me out of this company, one fake mistake at a time. This isn't random, I muttered. The resignation letter was instead a lucky shot. They been building a case, piece by piece. Leela bit her lip. But why you? That question cut the deepest. Why me? Because I was too good? Because I threatened Clara? Because Hale couldn't stand seeing me rise? Or was there something else? I looked at Leela again, her face pale in the dim light. For the first time since this began, the thought crept in. What if even she wasn't set on my side? I closed the folder and slid it back into the drawer. Carefully, almost ritualistic. Then I whispered to myself, if they want war, I still give them war. Lisa's voice was small. What are you going to do? I looked up at her, my hands still trembling. I am going to stop being quiet, and I am going to find out who supped us before they bury me completely. Her eyes searched mine, like she wanted to say something. But she didn't. And the silence that followed felt heavier than all the lies in that folder. I sat there long after she left, staring at the desk that used to feel like mine. Now it felt like a trap. Every drawer, every folder, every scrap of paper could be another weapon waiting to be used against me. Paranoia coiled around me like smoke. But beneath it, rage was building. Pure, blinding, rage. And that rage would keep me alive. I needed air, I needed distance. By the time I reached my mother's apartment, the city lights were bleeding into the night. Her place was small, quiet, safe. She opened the door before I even knocked. You look tired, she said softly. I collapsed into her arms. For a moment the fight left me. Inside, the smell of chamomile tea wrapped around me. She set 2 cups on the table, the steam rising between us. I stared at the mug. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Finally she broke the silence. Tell me. I told her everything. The forged resignation. The rumors. Clara's smug smile. The fake reports. Her face didn't change. She just listened, eyes steady, hands folded. When I finished, my chest felt hollow. Then she asked quietly, "Do you want to fight this, or let them win?" The words stung. "Mom," I whispered, "I don't set like conflict. I don't set like playing dirty. That sep's not me." Her gaze pierced through me. "But this isn't instead about pride anymore. It's instead about survival." I pressed my palms against my forehead. I don't stopped even know where to start. Everyone stucks against me. Even Leela. I stopped. I don't stock know if I can trust her anymore. My mother Sep's voice was calm but firm. "Trust yourself. That Sep's all you need right now." I looked up, my throat tightening. What if I lose? What if I can clear my name? She leaned closer, her hand covering mine. "Do you remember your father?" The air in the room shifted, heavy. I nodded slowly. "Of course I do." She sighed. "He lost his job when I was pregnant with you. A colleague framed him, just like this. Lies, documents, rumors, and you know what he did?" I swallowed hard. "He stayed quiet." Her voice cracked for the first time. That silence killed him slowly. He wasted away with the weight of injustice on his chest. My chest tightened, breath shallow. She squeezed my hand. "I once said watch history repeat itself. Not with you." Tears burned behind my eyes. "I don't want to become him. But I don't know how to fight like they do." "You don't have to fight like them," she said. "You fight smarter. You fight louder. You let the truth speak." Her words rang inside me, colliding with my father's old lesson. Silence is dignity, but silence can also be defeat. I clenched my jaw. Then I stay silent. "Not this time." She smiled faintly, eyes wet. "Good, because you are stronger than you think." The tea had gone cold, untouched, but I didn't care. For the first time in days, my chest felt lighter. I whispered into the stillness, more to myself than to her. "This time they destroy me." I stared at my desk for a long time before I did it. The same desk where forged reports had been planted. The same desk that felt like a coffin waiting to shut on me. This time, I turned it into my weapon. A small recorder, no bigger than my thumb, taped underneath the drawer. Another one tucked near the break room, hidden behind a potted plant. If they wanted to play dirty, I set go lower. Every smile around me now felt fake. Every laugh sounded like it carried a knife. 3 days later, I had hours of audio. Most of it useless. Gossip. Complaints about coffee. But then? Clara Sepp's voice. Hushed sharp. "He's Sepp's going to sign it today, right?" My blood froze. A man Sepp's voice answered. Steady, confident. "Mr. Hale." "Yes. Once she steps out, we still promote Darren. It steps cleaner this way." My stomach twisted. Clara laughed softly. "Finally, no more drama." I stopped the recording, played it again, over and over. "Once she steps out, we self-promote Darren." My hands shook as I ripped off the headphones. Darren. Of course. The golden boy of the office. Always friendly, always eager, always helpful. Every coffee he brought me. Every fake compliment. Every smile that seemed too polished to be real. It wasn't instead kindness. It was strategy. He was waiting for me to fall so he could climb. That afternoon, I walked into the break room. Darren was there, laughing with 2 coworkers. His laugh was perfect, like he'd practiced it in a mirror. I stood in the doorway until he noticed me. "Hey," he said, flashing that same easy grin. "Rough week, huh?" I didn't smile. You could say that. He poured himself coffee, acting casual. "If you ever need help, you know I've got your back." My fists clenched at my sides. "Do you?" He tilted his head. "Of course. Why wouldn't Set die?" I stepped closer. My voice dropped. "Because I heard Hale, I heard Clara. They said once I Sep one out, they Sep promote you." For a second, his mask slipped. His smile froze. His eyes flickered. But then it was back. Smooth, unbothered. "Sounds like a rumor," he said lightly. "You know how offices are." "No." I shook my head. "I have proof." His grin tightened. "Proof?" I leaned in until my words were knives. "A recording, your name, your promotion, all of it." He stared at me, his jaw tight. The mask was cracking. You don't know what you're talking about, he muttered. Yes, I do. My voice burned. You smiled in my face while you stabbed me in the back. Silence stretched. The two coworkers quickly left, sensing the heat. It was just me and Darren. Finally, he dropped the act. His smile vanished. His voice lowered, sharp as glass. You were always too good, he said. Too clean, too perfect. It was only a matter of time before someone cut you down. My chest burned. So it was you. He shrugged. It was Hale Sepp's idea. Clara pushed it. I just benefited. Done Sept hate the player. Player? My laugh was bitter. This isn't set a game. To you maybe, he sneered. But in this place? It's Sud's survival. I stepped back, heart pounding. Then you should be scared, Darren, because I survived worse than this. His eyes narrowed. You wouldn't stet dare expose them. You stet go down with them. I smiled, but it wasn't stet warm. That stet's what you think. That night I sat in my apartment, headphones pressed tight. Clara Sepp's voice. Hal Sepp's voice. Darren Sepp's name. I listened until their words carved into me like fire. And with every replay, I didn't feel weak anymore. I felt fire in my chest. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting, I was planning. They thought they were writing my ending. But I had the tape. And they had no idea I was listening. I carried the recordings like invisible knives. Tucked away, hidden, waiting for the right time to strike. But until then, I wore my own mask. I smiled at Darren, nodded at Clara, sat across from Hale as if I didn't already know the poison running beneath his polished words. Inside, I was sharpening my blade. It started small. I handed Darren a file during a meeting. Here, I said, sliding it across the table. Could you double-check this for me? He glanced at it, confident as ever, but within seconds his face drained. This can't be right. His voice cracked. Clara leaned over. What's up's wrong? Darren shuffled papers, panic flashing across his eyes. It's just a mistake. But it wasn't. It was too precise to be a mistake. Numbers that matched his late submissions, patterns too close to his shortcuts. I tilted my head. Strange. I thought you were the expert. He swallowed hard. Everyone makes errors. I smiled thinly. Of course. Inside, my heart was steady. For the first time in weeks. Steady. Because cracks had begun to show. Later that day, I found Lila in the copy room. She was quiet, shoulders hunched, eyes darting. Hey, I said softly. You okay? She shook her head, whispered. I heard them. Clara and Hale. They supper setting you up. I pretended surprise. You heard what? Her voice trembled. They said if anyone defends you, they'll make sure that person is next. Clara, she told me. If I open my mouth, I said lose my job. My stomach tightened. Clara, always the smiling snake, threatening her too. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You don't deserve that. None of this is your fault. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know what to do. I hugged her, held her while she shook. But inside, I wasn't soft. Inside, steel was hardening. They were using fear to keep us quiet. Not anymore. Over the next week, the secrets unraveled like rotten thread. Darren had debts. Creditors calling the office, hushed conversations in corners. His perfect smile hiding desperation. Clara was angling for power. Slipping into Hale's office with reports that weren't hers, flattering him with sugar-coated lies. And Hale himself, my so-called mentor, he wasn't protecting the company, he was siphoning it. Shady bookkeeping, funds redirected, signatures that didn't match. The betrayal was just personal. It was systemic. They weren't just trying to destroy me. They were trying to build an empire on lies. And they thought I was too weak to see it. One night, I sat at my kitchen table, headphones on, playing back the recordings. Clara Sepp's whisper, once she Sepp's gone, we control everything. Hale Sepp's laugh, she Sepp's too naive to fight back. Darren Sepp's mutter, as long as I get my cut. I closed my eyes. Naive, weak, disposable. That Sepp's what they saw when they looked at me. I opened my eyes again, cold, clear. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The next morning, Darren approached me at my desk. His smile was thinner now, stretched too tight. About yesterday, he said. I might have overreacted with that file. Long week, you know. I looked him dead in the eye. Everyone makes errors, right? His jaw twitched. He leaned in, whispered, "What do you want from me?" I leaned back, voice calm. "Nothing, for now." He blinked, unsettled. "For now?" I smiled faintly. "Just do your job." I watched him walk away, shoulders stiff. The golden boy was cracking. Clara was next. She cornered me by the elevators, lips curled into a perfect poisonous smile. "Heard you've been busy," she said sweetly. "Double-checking everyone's steps work. Tisk. Not very. Team-oriented." I tilted my head. Funny. I thought teamwork meant not stabbing people in the back. Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. She recovered fast. "Careful with your words, sweetheart. You wouldn't want them to be misunderstood." I leaned closer, my voice dropping into steel. "I step not the one who should be careful." Her smile faltered. The mask slipped. And in that tiny crack, I saw fear. But the real test was Hale. He called me into his office, gesturing for me to sit. "I noticed tension," he said, voice smooth. "You wouldn't happen to be causing it, would you?" I kept my expression neutral. "I just want to do my work." He studied me. "Good, because troublemakers don't last long here." I met his gaze. Steady. "Neither do liars." A flicker of irritation crossed his face. "Watch your tone." I smiled politely. "Of course, Mr. Hale." But inside I was laughing. Because I had his voice too. On tape. Planning. Manipulating. Stealing. And soon everyone would hear it. That night, I sat in the dark, recordings laid out like ammunition. Darren Sepp's debts. Clara Sett's threats. Hale Sepp's corruption. One by one, their masks had slipped. And I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was the storm waiting at their door. They thought they were untouchable. But I was going to bring it all down. Every lie, every scheme, every betrayal. And when the dust settled, they'd finally know what it felt like to lose everything. The room smelled like polish and lies. The glossy table reflected our faces, masks waiting to crack. They thought this was just another meeting. A formality before my exit. But I had instead come to leave quietly. Clara walked in first, heels clicking, smirk already in place. Darren followed, cheerful as ever, like a boy who thought the throne was already his. And Hale, the puppet master, adjusted his cufflinks, calm, untouchable. I forced a smile, my voice steady. "Thank you all for coming. I thought it was time for a workflow review." Hale chuckled. "Of course. Efficiency is everything." Darren grinned. "Glad you for taking initiative. That seb's admirable." Clara crossed her arms. "Let's just get this over with, shall we?" My heart pounded against my ribs, but my hands didn't shake as I placed a small black recorder on the table. I pressed play. Clara Sepp's voice poured out, sharp and poisonous. "She Sepp's too naive. Once she Sepp's gone, Darren gets the chair." The words hung heavy, dripping venom into the silence. The air shifted. Thick. Suffocating. Darren's smile vanished. His face drained of color. Hale stiffened, fingers tugging at his tie. Clara blinked, mouth opening and closing, caught mid-lie. I leaned forward, my voice low. "Funny. I don't remember those words being part of any workflow." Clara shot up from her chair. "This is ridiculous. Where did you even—" I cut her off. Sharp. "Sit down." The command startled even me, but she obeyed, dropping back into her seat like a puppet whose strings had been yanked. I turned to Darren. "So, golden boy, was it worth it? Every fake compliment? Every coffee you brought me just to grease the knife you shove in my back?" He stammered. "I didn't Clara dragged me into." "Enough." My voice sliced through his excuses. "I heard it all. Your cut, your debts, your plans." His eyes darted to Hale. "You promised me." "Shut up," Clara snapped, panic rising in her voice. The cracks were spreading, masks falling. Hale cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "This is unprofessional. Recordings without consent? Do you realize?" I cut him off, calm, almost smiling. "Do you realize HR has been on this call the entire time?" The color drained from his face. For the first time, Hale looked small. I gestured toward the corner. The door clicked open. Miss Rivera, head of HR, stepped inside silently, a folder in hand. I turned back to the table, my voice steady, icy. You wrote my resignation, but I set'll deliver yours. Clara Sepp's jaw dropped. You can set. Rivera Sepp's voice cut through like a blade. We can, and we will. I Sepp heard enough. Clara lunged toward the recorder. That Sepp's not admissible. Rivera raised a brow. Threats, collusion. Evidence of fraud. Care to argue further? Clara froze, hands trembling, rage and fear battling in her eyes. Darren slumped back in his chair, whispering, I just wanted a chance. I didn't stet mean. I turned to him, cold. You wanted my seat. Now you don't even have a chair to sit in. His head dropped into his hands. And Hale? Hale tried one last time. He straightened his tie, forced authority back into his voice. This is a misunderstanding. I Sept given this company decades. I leaned across the table, my voice sharp as glass. You've taken from this company, stolen, manipulated, and you thought no one would notice. But I noticed. Rivera slid a paper across to him. Effective immediately, you scepter under investigation. Hale's hand trembled as he took it. His eyes met mine, fury boiling behind them. You shall regret this. I held his stare. No. I shall recover from this. You won stet. The silence after was deafening. Clara sat frozen, lips pressed tight. Darren stared at the floor, defeated. Hale Sepp's mask had shattered completely. And me. I wasn't shaking anymore. For the first time, the power was mine. Rivera gathered the recorder, nodding to me. You did the right thing, we shall take it from here. I breathed out slowly. No, I still take it from here. I stup not done yet. She studied me, then nodded once. Very well. She left, the door shutting softly behind her. I stayed seated, staring at the ruins of their empire. Clara, Darren Hale. 3 masks. All burned to ash. And I had lit the match. When I finally stood, my chair scraped against the polished floor, echoing like thunder. I looked at them one last time. The betrayers, the liars, the cowards. And I smiled. Because this wasn't just revenge. This was justice. And it was only the beginning. The office was quieter now. Not peaceful, quiet like the aftermath of a storm, where debris still litters the ground. Clara was gone, fired for misconduct. Darren, demoted, stripped of his fake shine. And Hale, cornered, his empire under investigation. The same people who once smirked behind my back, now avoided my eyes. Or worse, they looked at me with something like respect. And guilt. But I didn't want their guilt. I wanted my freedom. I printed my letter that morning. My real resignation. When I walked into Hale's office one last time, the chair sat empty. His nameplate was still there, but he wasn't set. It felt fitting. I placed my letter dead center on his desk. This time, my signature was mine. I whispered to the empty room. You don't get to decide how I leave. I do. By lunchtime, the whispers had shifted. Is she really leaving? After everything? She won. I didn't answer them. I didn't need to. I packed my things slowly. Every folder, every pen, every shred of myself I had poured into that place. It all went into a single box. And with every item, I felt lighter. Leela appeared at my door. Her eyes were red, like she'd been carrying guilt heavier than her body could bear. She stepped inside, voice trembling. I should have told you earlier. I heard more than I admitted. Clara, she threatened me. Said she'd ruin me if I backed you. I looked at her, my best friend in that building. The one person I thought I could trust. My chest ached, but I forced a smile. You were scared. I get it. Tears welled in her eyes. I wasn't brave like you. I shook my head. Bravery isn't said about not being scared. It's said about standing up anyway. You shall get there. She hugged me so tightly I almost couldn't breathe. Her whisper was shaky. I'm so sorry. And for the first time in weeks I meant it when I whispered back. I forgive you. Some wounds weren't meant to stay open. The final walk through the office felt surreal. Faces turned. Some smiled nervously. Others looked away. None of it mattered anymore. Clara Sepp's desk was empty. Darren sat hunched over his smaller cubicle, avoiding my gaze. And Hale's door stayed shut, his shadow fading into irrelevance. They had written my ending, but I had rewritten it in fire. When I reached the elevator, I turned back one last time. This place had tried to bury me, but I hadn't been buried. I went been planted. I pressed the button. The doors slid open. Outside, the city air hit me like a wave. Cold, sharp, alive. For the first time in months, I could breathe without weight on my chest. Lila followed me out, carrying the last piece of my box. She set it down, wiped her tears, and whispered, "What now?" I looked up at the skyline. The world stretched endless, wide, waiting. Now? I smiled, the first real smile in a long time. Now, I rise. I didn't just walk away from them. I walked toward myself. Toward freedom. Toward peace. Betrayal had almost broken me. But revenge gave me closure. I didn't survive their lies. I made them drown in the ashes of their own. And I walked out on my terms.